Episode number 29, The Bellows, Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Alright, cut to edge of stage. Great. Alright, color frost.
Check. 1, 2, 3. Check.
Stand by, please. House to half, house out, letting cues 1 through 10, sound cues 1 through 10.
Hello and welcome back to the Title Block. I'm your host, Michael Kruse, and on this episode we present another session of The Bellows, a monthly informal discussion about theatre production that takes place at the Theatre Passe Muraille in Toronto, Ontario. In this session of The Bellows, the guest panel discusses something that many artists dread: preparing your taxes. As many artists live close to the economic edge, tax time is a time rife with anxiety. And if you're anything like me, you tried to avoid facing up to the juggling act of maximizing your income while appearing somewhat like an adult to the bank, and it rarely worked out. Well, on March 22nd, 2016, at Theatre Passe Muraille, an expert panel sat down to discuss how to get your house finally in order. Moderator Hutson, head seat at carpenter at the Tarragon Theatre, was joined by bookkeeper Scratch Anderson, business manager at the Tarragon Theatre Kesta Graham, chartered professional accountant Edmonds, and managing director at Nightwood Theatre Beth Brown, to discuss how to make filing your taxes and ultimately getting paid for the work you do much easier and less dramatic. Once again, we broadcasted this through Periscope for those who could not join us, and I encourage you to log on April 18th to participate in another informal chat about life in the theatre. And of course, I encourage you to support the show through patreon.com, where you can help me cover more events like this and bring interesting local discussions to artists across Canada. And you can find more complete bios online at thetitleblock.com. But in the meantime, here is the next session of The Bellows, Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
They heard taxes and they're not sure what to
Welcome
say.
to Bellows. I think a lot of you have been here before, but do we have any first time Bellows people?
Yeah!
Growing. That's wonderful. So you guys are all the Bellows, and you probably know what the Bellows is because you came to it. But the Bellows is sort of our monthly production panel meetup. And I think this is one of the best examples of one of the ways we were creating this was all the things you wish you had learned in theater school, and this is something I wish I had learned in theater school.
Any school,
any time, high school, preschool. Like I really wish I had learned. So we're gonna learn a lot of great stuff about finances. Who is the Bellows? Who is the Bellows? I'm the Bellows. My name is Christopher Ross. I run the Theatre Passe Muraille Backspace.
I am the Bellows. My name is Pip Bradford. I'm a freelance production manager, director, installation art creator. I do a lot of things.
My name's Kevin Hutson. I'm the head carpenter at Tarragon Theatre. You can tell I'm terribly competent because I have bandages on both my thumbs today. Yeah.
Forwards.
Super good.
What a guy.
And if by the end of this evening you haven't followed us on Twitter or friended all of us on Facebook, then you're doing it wrong.
Yeah. So go to Facebook. We are the Bellows on Facebook, clearly. We also have, what is our Twitter?
It's _Bellows. I'm really sorry about the underscore.
You're the worst.
I know, I'm the worst. I'm the worst.
The worst.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So the format of the night. Basically, this one's going to be a little different than usual. Usually we sort of have a panel discussion. Kevin asks a lot of questions, people answer. This time what we're going to do is everybody's going to talk, and we're going to talk for 15 minutes-ish on basics of taxes, 15 minutes-ish on your responsibilities if you're an employee, and pay stubs and stuff like that. And then we're gonna together we're gonna muddle through being a contract or a freelancer, being a freelancer, and what that means, because there's a lot of stuff involved with that. Obviously, a little more complicated. And then after that, and really at any time, please come and ask your questions, because that's what this night is about, is you guys asking all the complicated, scary questions you have about finances. I will be asking many things because I am terrified of this topic, and I think this is a good time to have some beer and then just really let loose with the terrifying questions you have. So please, at any time, come up and ask them.
If you have a question and you feel so embarrassed that you can't say it out loud, you can tell me and I will ask your question for you.
Pip will represent you.
The audience, the people.
Real quick, I want to give some thank yous. And this is the part where I'm going to look at my phone so I don't forget any of them. We are going to TPM stands on the traditional lands of Turtle Island. And we would like to acknowledge the Mississaugas of New Credit, the Anishinaabeg peoples, the Huron-Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Métis. So thank you very much to the traditional caretakers of our land. We would also like to thank Title Block Podcast, who is podcasting, periscoping this panel, thetitleBlock.com. Please go to it, listen to previous panels, listen to this one sometime in the future. It'll be great.
And also other excellent programming.
So many things. So many wonderful things.
So many wonderful interviews with designers.
I would like to thank, in advance, Jared, our bartender. You'll be
Yeah,
seeing him a lot
Jared.
throughout the night. Thanks a lot, Jared. And it is $4 steam whistle tonight. So buy some steam whistle,
Get your steam whistle
as Scarlett
on.
has. So thank you to Steam Whistle, I guess, for
For
giving
making
us steam whistling.
beer.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Excellent. So I think that's...
I also would just like to ask if you have some spare change and you would like to donate, make a tiny donation to the Bellows. This jar will be on the bar. It mostly helps us pay for alcohol for our panelists who are very generous in donating their time tonight, and also to kick some money to Michael, who rents all these microphones and all this.
Shows up here before we even do, like he is the
Always.
most dedicated member
He's
of the
always
Bellows,
here,
really.
way before us, so we're still at the end here. And with that, let's kick it to Kevin and the panel.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thanks, guys.
This is genuinely terrifying for me. Finances are not the thing that I do, as Scratch and Kesta know, both being current and former employees of the Tarragon, where I am. So we're not here to do your taxes, but we're trying to convince you that it's not that terrifying. Even in the, 2 hours of research I did, it already seems a little less scary. So we're going to walk you through the absolute basics of how to do your taxes and the absolute basics of how to be an employee. But first, we're going to get people to introduce themselves. You know me, and on my left.
I'm Scratch Anderson. I'm a bookkeeper, which is an anachronism. I record financial transactions. And tonight we're also going to come up with a new term for bookkeeping, so I want everyone to think about that.
I'm Kesta Graham. I'm the business manager at Tarragon Theatre, formerly self-employed artist, so I know where most of you are coming from. And
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
That's it.
There you go. My name is Ian Edmonds. I'm a chartered professional accountant. I have an office around the corner, so I have my own practice. I work with a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, as well as a lot of self-employed individuals in, among other things, the entertainment industry, working with people to try and make taxes a little more straightforward and less scary.
And my name is Beth Brown. I'm the managing director at Nightwood Theatre. I started as a stage manager, and I remember the time when it was either self-employed or employed, and begging to be self-employed. That is no longer the case, however. And then I became a contract production manager and am now at Nightwood.
Sure. So, taxes. It's not actually that scary. You don't need to file every year if you don't owe. They're not going to come after you unless you owe them money. That being said, it's a lot easier to file every year. And doing back years is difficult. You have to find old forms, and old software isn't that easy to figure out. You're probably owed some money if you're an employee, so it's in your benefit to file every year. You can chime in at any time. I was going to sweat my way through this. You can find pretty much everything you need on Canada Revenue Agency's website. You can file it yourself. They're really encouraging people to use e-file nowadays with the interwebs. And it seems relatively easy. There's lots of software that'll autofill and do things for you. The deadline is April 30th, for the record. The process isn't actually very scary. You just need Form T1. That's the basic unit of currency. Am I right?
Yeah.
Form T1, also available on the CRA's website. You just fill out the boxes it tells you. It's really not too terrifying. Again, this is all just me within an hour. If I can figure it out, you guys can. There are other forms that are necessary. You're probably going to need to keep all your T4s, which are employment records. T4As are record of self-employed income.
They also will be scholarships for people who are in school.
Excellent. I used to get T4 from the Tarragon when I was full-time there, seasonal, and then I'd pull calls here, and they would give me a T4A from here. And so I have lots of T4s and T4As from many years ago, which need to be given to the government.
They don't.
Yeah.
They don't need to be given to
They don't need to be given to the government. That's the other thing, is that the government has them.
Everything.
The government has everything. They know everything about you. I am currently going through the process of getting the government to tell me what they know about me. So I've called them, but to my eternal shame, it's been so long since I've filed that they have no record of who the hell I am other than all these slips of paper. So I can't actually prove my identity to them. Otherwise, you can just call them, prove it's you, and they'll be like, all right, here's all your information. And then you can go through the process, and it's relatively fine.
Saving you calling them, they've recently, in the last 2 years, Scratch and I were talking about this, introduced a program called My Account, where if you sign up for it, you have to be relatively current in filing your taxes to be able to sign up. But if you sign up for it, you can then log in and see all the information they have. You can see the slips they've got. You can see your notices of assessment for the past few years. You can see all the tax information, how much tuition you have carried forward, if that applies, RRSP contribution room,
TFSAs,
all that sort of thing. Tax-free
yes.
savings account, contribution room. Yeah.
They really do know.
So it's a really great service and saves you having to phone them.
For sure. Or in my case, if you phone them and can't prove your identity,
There you go.
then they gave me an address to write to. So I have to send a letter to Sudbury with my SIN number and some details and my signature, and apparently that's enough for them to trust me and send them all of Kevin Hutson's information.
There you go.
Yeah, should be pretty good.
So also, if you know his SIN and just want to write to
Which some people in the city might.
Something for me?
Yeah, because you totally want my financial information. On your T1 form, which is what you need to submit, not all of that information is going to apply to you. As I found out, there's hundreds of lines of text, and not much of it is relevant to me. But it's stuff like child benefits. That will come in handy later, I'm sure. Schedule 1 is a separate thing. I don't really know how to describe it, but it applies and it tells you, so it's a separate sheet of paper, and it tells you how much you made over the course of that year, so you fill it out, and then based on that, there's a number of brackets you fall into, and that tells you how much you owe, having paid in taxes, which is fairly straightforward. And if you paid more than that, then they give you money back. And if you paid less than that, they give it. You need to give them more. Schedule 11 is tuition, which is relevant for even me. And I went to school 10 years ago. So most of the people in this room will need to know about Schedule 11. It's tuition expenses, textbooks, all that kind of stuff.
For which you don't need textbook receipts, very confusingly.
Weird.
So
Okay.
You can throw them out. I have a bunch of people who are like, I lost my textbook receipts. Is this bad? No.
Awesome. That's good to know.
There you go.
And then I'm not entirely sure, this is not clear to me, although I'm sure it should be, but I'm a fool. So Schedule 1, the T1, we're talking about federal taxes.
Federal tax.
And then there's an additional provincial thing?
ON 428.
ON 428.
I'm impressed I came up with that off the top of my head, but
for
yeah.
you.
Amazing.
ON 428 is
Well,
your
that's why you got the
provincial
letters
tax.
behind your name.
There you
That's
go.
why.
Yeah.
There you go. So you need to consider that, and it is a similar sheet to Schedule 1, which says you made this much money, you paid this much tax, therefore you owe, or whatever. And so that all accumulates onto your T1 form.
Kevin's detailing the 1972 method of doing taxes to you, but
sure,
it
for
is
sure.
the basis for what everything exists. On a piece of software, a lot of this will open up, but a lot of it's going to be
Automatic.
automatic, yeah.
That is actually the extent of my knowledge. So if we can go on to software that will make this easier for people, that would be great.
Absolutely. Awesome.
One of the things that I'm going to suggest to you, if you already are doing it and filing your taxes, is to use one of the online services that have existed for the last 15 years. And specifically a company out of Montreal called Dr. Tax, and the software is called ufile, ufile.ca. Carries your information year over year, opens up every single form that you are going to require, has all the detail that you need if you're filing for self-employed income, and a host of other information. You're driving it on your own, and you're paying accordingly. So the end result of that is about a $17 charge to you. You file that information electronically as well, too, dependent upon where you are with your tax filing. And it rolls that information over to you in the next year. That's just one of the several different forms of independent tax filing that we have in Canada. There's other ones that you'll see advertised in the next 3 to 4 weeks. They're ubiquitous, they're TurboTax, but this is the sort of range of prices that you should be paying. If your complexity and your situation is such that you need someone who's got a designation, that is where your amount of time and effort is best used and put to use with an accountant. But in most cases, just about everyone here should be able to complete their return on their own. Not to discount anything that accountants do. They're incredibly busy, and they get even more so at this point in the year. You should, as a part of just experience, do your taxes every year. Yeah. And it's not nearly as bad as you would think. The software has made it intuitive, and it has an end result that is pleasing, and that you can try different things to see if you get a different result.
Right. So let's say you are, like me, terrified. Yeah. And while, the hour of research that I did was encouraging, I have several years and I'm looking to get somebody to bail me out.
Yeah.
What do I look for in that? Do I need somebody certified? Do I need this, that, and the other? How much does a return usually cost, if I can ask that? If I can't, don't answer it. That sort of thing.
Yeah. One of I agree with Scratch on the doing your return yourself. I've talked to clients who say, I've got a T4 slip and my RSPs. Do I need you to do my taxes? Absolutely not. There is no reason that someone who has a T4 and their RSP slips can't do their own taxes. More importantly, there's very little I can add to that. I can't tell you to do anything because an employee of a company can't claim any taxes. There aren't any loopholes. There's no secret tricks you can do. And so I'm going to say, I'm going to end up charging you to do your return and say, yep, UFile or whatever system you would have used would have given you the same number. But definitely for people who are, way behind, finding back software is challenging.
Yep.
Finding good back software is really hard. And so, no, definitely I work with people in that kind of situation. Personal tax returns, depending on who you're working with, if you're working with someone who's got a designation, you're not going to pay less than $150 to get your return done. And that assumes that you've got, like I said, I have clients who just don't want to deal with it and say, here's my T4, my RSP slips.
And you're paying more when you do
that's
that.
Fine. Yeah. They've got kids and busy lives, and they say, I don't have the time to deal with this. Please make it go away. That's fine. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. I will say that when I was doing contract work, one of the things I found most confusing, and I still do, is what receipts you keep.
There we go.
And so I did use an accountant once because I had a stack of receipts and I had no idea what I could write off.
Yeah. Once you get into self-employed, that's when you want to be working with someone who knows that as their area of expertise. There's very little you can do as an employee that is wrong. And more importantly, if you mess it up, CRA will just fix it and send you a letter back saying, you messed up, but don't worry, we fixed it for you. and that's it.
Okay. Well, let's
they might send you a bill along with it, but they'll just tell you you're wrong and we fixed it.
Amazing. So let's stumble through the slightly scary world of self-employment later.
Yeah.
As an employee, it seems like it's relatively straightforward. So employers must take deductions. Is that true?
It's a statutory obligation for
employers. Is that relatively new?
Nope. That's been in place since the Income Tax Act was put into...
Always been the employer's fault.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
However, there is a however to that. If you're working and you make less than a certain amount, there will be deductions that don't apply.
Right. Yes. So when I work at a new place, they give me a form to fill out. Yeah.
Yes.
What is that?
We were just talking about this at dinner, and it's the TD1.
Okay.
And the TD1 is a form that exists and stays within house. It's there for you to depict your current circumstance, and from that calculation, we enter a value into the payroll software. and the payroll software does all of its black magic to derive which deductions are going to occur across the year for you. On that TD1, there's two different ones, one for Ontario, of course, one for the federal government, but there are things that are perhaps not applicable to your state in life right now where there's children, or if you're acting in a caregiver capacity, certainly in school circumstances as well. So it's just a way of rendering a value that we're going to place in a field in the software. Again, it doesn't go to Ottawa, it exists and stays in-house. It's also for us to cross-check to make sure that everyone's spelling their name correctly or putting the address details or any number of things that we have to determine who you are as well. So it's a secondary check for us. Yes?
Please do, yes.
With regards to T1s, I've read before that if you've already filled one out that year, you don't have to fill another one out.
TD1?
TD1, yeah.
Okay, so what if you're working in different provinces?
You should have a different one for each province,
Okay.
yes. Yeah.
Do you have a different one for each employer?
I was going to say, yeah, you also have a different one for each employer. So if you work for 3 different jobs, you'll have 3 different versions of that TD1.
I see.
And to keep your own life simple, my suggestion, and people are welcome to say, hey, you're out to lunch. Let's say you do regularly work 3 different jobs. You work one place on Monday, one place on Tuesday, and the other place Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each of those places the payroll software is only going to calculate your income there. So if one job is paying you $6,000 a year and the next job is paying you $10,000 a year because you're only working there a short amount of time, that payroll software assumes you fall into a different tax bracket. So you might want to look at going to the more regular employer and saying, can you take extra taxes off?
And that's what the TD1 has. It has a field on there that you voluntarily determine how much you want removed from each pay period, and it accumulates that for you. So that when it comes time to complete your tax returns, in most cases that you've remitted enough and you're not sending money.
Yeah, so this is relevant to me personally, so I'm going to interrupt you and ask quite my questions. Because I'm a 9-month employee at the Tarragon, and then I generally work the summer here for the most part. So if I'm splitting it in that sort of, 70-30 way, how does that translate on my TD1s? Do I need to sort of do the 70-30, or do I just fill them out?
Ian has some advice on his website, which he can relate to you too, about self-employment and how much you should consider taking off in these circumstances.
So if you're self-employed, it's sort of around 30% of your income you should be setting aside for tax. The challenge with working for 2 employers is, as you mentioned, it depends on what your total income is at the end of the year. CRA doesn't care if that came from 1 employer or 5.
Right.
But if the same, say, $50,000 came from 5 employers that each paid you 10 grand, all of them said, you only owe $300 in tax.
Yeah.
You file your taxes and CRA says, no, you owe $10,000 in tax.
Right.
We've got $1,200. We'd like the remaining, $9,000 from you. And you're responsible for it. So it does definitely become a matter of what do you expect your salary for the year is going to be? And then you can get calculators online and it'll tell you roughly how much tax you're expecting to owe.
And so I think this is the same reason why if you have the opportunity to earn overtime, sometimes you'll do weeks that are effectively 80 hours with time and a half and this, that, and the other, and then the government will take half of it in tax.
Right.
Because every week they assume you make that much every week.
Every week for the whole year.
So if
the
you
software's calculating that,
that's what they're calculating on. That's why when you work super overtime weeks, much more of it is taken in tax.
And why you sometimes get a refund because of that, because now they've taken off enough salary for someone who's making a huge amount of money. You file your taxes and you go, I didn't make that much.
Cool.
Okay, here's the rest back.
So again, Kesta's point, which I will reiterate again, if you feel that you want more deducted, go to your standard or your most frequently used employer and complete that form so that additional tax is deducted at source. That way you're only dealing with one entity that's taking more tax off for you.
And the CRA has...
Sorry.
Quick question. On the form, do you write it in a percentage amount or in a dollar?
Dollar.
And that's dollar per pay period?
Per pay period, yeah. And generally, everyone in this room is probably 26 times a year. 80% of Canadians get paid 26 times a year.
So if you owed the government at the end of the year $250, $260, you could ask your employer, you know what, take $10 off every pay period, and then
you're covered.
Unless you get a significant raise, chances are.
Or start a new job.
Or start a new job. But if you stay in that same position with relative same salary, you should at the end of the next tax year
Be okay.
Yep.
Be close, if not okay.
Be better.
Yeah.
Just one more question while I'm here. Line 12 on the CD1, that number that you write at the bottom, you input it into the software. Is that what they assume the minimum amount you're making is before? What is that?
No, you're determining how much you want removed. It's really how much you can cope with, right? In a lot of cases, people want every dollar to them, and it's difficult to take off a certain amount. So it's in your hands as to how much you want taken off.
But when you're writing on like the last line on the first page, the 10,000.
That's a standard basic exemption that every Canadian gets.
Yeah. So if you make less than that, there's no taxes deducted.
That'd be CPP.
Yeah, CPP. Yeah. Not even EI.
Not even EI in that one. Yeah.
So there'd be some, but very little. What that's doing is certain people, because of their situations, can make even more before they have to start paying tax. That's what that form is asking you. Do you have one of these situations? So if you have 4 kids under 10, you will pay less tax. That number will be higher. And so rather than you just getting a huge refund at the end of every year, you tell your employer through that form, I've got 4 kids and I don't need you to take this much tax off. And they go, okay, we'll take less off.
And it was a dinner conversation too. It's as far as we're concerned on our end, we think it's better that you have the money in your hands through the course of the year rather than waiting for a refund. Yeah. You shouldn't ever count on refunds. It should be balanced in a way from your employment income that you arrive at your tax return and you file, and either you're accurate and dead on or you owe $10. It's ideal when it's done like that.
Yeah. What does it mean if you put 0 in that box?
In the box for
10,011.
the 0 means that you are
Have a second employer.
Yeah, you have a second employer, and that you're getting deducted full amount. Yeah, and in software, payroll software, we can't put a 0. We have to actually put 1 cent in there in that field to make it work, to make it function.
Okay. Huh. Okay. So we
there was
keep.
a question.
Oh yes. Go.
Also, in regards to that, with filling it out with 0 at the bottom, I'm figuring a lot of other people have this too, where they'll literally get 12 T4s a year and fill out 12 or more of those a year.
Yeah.
Is it better to put a 0 and say, yeah, I have several different employers, or is it better to claim everything?
No, if you have multiple employers and you're going to be using them over the course of the year, you should always select that 0 value, because you want that to deduct at full for each of those employers. Just in the circumstance where you're not going to be totally clear on what you're going to be grossing.
One that's specifically your most regular work.
Yeah.
Because for that, you would want the one that's your most regular to take your taxes
Yes.
off.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of everywhere the same amount of time, how do you figure that one out? Should you only go for one company, or in that situation, is it better to get taxes deducted across?
Taxes will always be deducted. Even if you put 0, taxes will be deducted at all of them. You'll still run into a problem if you've got 12 employers and for example, and you make $5,000 at each one. None of them will take off any tax or much at all. And at the end of the year, you'll make $60,000, and CRA will say you owe us a pile of money. Even if you put 0 into those boxes, they still won't have taken much tax off. So that will solve your problem to a certain extent, and to a certain extent you just have to do your own tax planning and say, okay, I know I'm working for more employers than were intended through this system. I'm going to start setting aside money on my own. And that's just what you have to do if you're working for that many different employers. There isn't a way for them to fix it for you, except the voluntarily take off more tax just because. Okay.
So I told you that working for one company, being an employee, was simple, and obviously we've broken that myth immediately. So because I don't think a lot of us in this room actually just work for one employer, which is what we're hearing. So apart from filling out that TD1 and keeping your T4s, what else do you have to do as an employee?
Don't piss them off and get fired.
Good. Check.
That's usually a good standard method of making sure your income stays stable through the year. There's
you have to keep your timesheets. Presumably, you got to fill out timesheets and keep your timesheets.
That is an accurate thing that some people don't do, and I'll go into this with some of the software that might be applicable to a lot of you as well. But you all have obligations and your employers, and it doesn't. I don't think our session here is going to quite cover that. But it's the standardization that's occurred in the employee-employer relationship is such that your role is quite passive, which is not to say that you can come to work and not do anything, but it just is, a lot of these things are taken care of for you. Your employer is obligated to remit what he's taken from your paycheck on a regular frequency. And they file on your behalf, and they provide all these other standard things that are part of the Employment Standards Act or part of the federal regulations as well too. So there isn't necessarily beyond what I've just made a joke about, but that's where you stand. Show up, work.
Keep your contact information up to date, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please. Because when, for some reason, a payment doesn't go through if we're doing direct deposit,
Yeah.
I'm astounded how often it happens. People change their banking account, like if it's direct deposit.
She's brilliant, but she's not psychic.
Yeah. I wish I was. But I want to know how to pay you, right?
Yeah.
Like, I do want to get you paid for the work that you do. That's why I'm in the job that I'm in. I want to make sure that you come back and work for us again. So phone, email, and
full address. Yeah, postal code too.
With the supervisor, but also with whoever is signing the check or doing the direct deposit. Sometimes there's a bit of a backlog between department heads getting things to payroll. Particularly, as you know, Tech Week is crazy. So if you've just provided new contact information, it could be 6 months before it gets to payroll, if at all. And
it's in multiple databases too, in all firms.
Yeah.
It can be any number of places where your information is stored. We secure it, but it can be in payroll software, it can be payment software, it can be in accounting software.
Yeah.
And it's a bitch to maintain.
Yeah, so just pick up the phone, call us and say, I've moved, and we'll say if we need it in writing or if a verbal confirmation is all that's necessary. But
I think another thing too, when you're also on the phone, to provide some identity or some method for us to know who you are on the other end of the phone. We might not have met you in person, or we might have worked with you for years and never met you in person, but we might ask you a question to narrow who it is that we're talking to.
Yeah. On contact information, if you move or change your banking information, make sure you tell the Canada Revenue Agency too. If they can't find you, they can't contact you. And that's one of the common problems I run into with clients of mine is I'll tell them they ignored 4 letters from CRA and their answer is, I never got them.
Yeah.
They do their best. And then they just start taking money from people.
And I believe we can update through my account for address and banking information too. So it's another tool, another point of access that you can provide that to the CRA and it's done. So once you have your My Account set up, you're able to exchange this information far easier than it was before, where you had to send in letters as well.
Yes, question.
Can you talk a bit about I think it might be called the T2200 form?
Yep.
For education?
No, employment.
Okay, great.
Conditions of employment. So this is, I said earlier that there's very little tax planning that I can do for people who are employees of companies. The T2200 is one of the only ways. In certain circumstances, depending on the contract you have with your employer, you might be responsible for paying expenses out of pocket that they will not reimburse you for. These could be supplies that you're buying. These could be meals that you're having to pay for if you're putting on an event. This could be travel. So if you're being told by your employer, we need you to drive around and pick up things for a production, and we're not going to reimburse you mileage, then those are the kind of things that you can claim on your taxes. So you'll be able to claim them on your taxes. When you claim them, Canada Revenue Agency will write you back and say, hey, can we get a letter from your employer saying that they made you buy this stuff or spend this money and didn't reimburse you? That form is the T2200. So before you file your taxes, especially if you've got multiple employers, make sure you get one of those forms as soon as you can, because if you don't have it, CRA's answer is immediately, you can't claim those, we're taking them off your return. Now you're just out of pocket with no benefit to it.
And do you need one every year from
One every year
place?
from every employer, yes. Unless you're not claiming expenses against that employer. But yes.
No, I am, because I'm a scenic artist. I work as an employee
Yep.
some places and not others.
Yep.
And I fall in that category where it's complicated.
Yep.
So I supply my own steel toes, respirator, work
Yep.
clothes, toolkit
Yeah.
that I'm not reimbursed for.
Now, for some of those things, once you've got a T2200 from one employer, you've claimed it against that employer. CRA won't ask you to supply one for every employer. So in the case of, for example, steel-toed boots, you don't have as big a problem because you can say, I incurred it for this job, and they've given me a form, I'm good. Where you will run into a problem is if you've got expenses that are being incurred directly for each employer. So if you're having to buy supplies for each of those jobs, and they're saying go and pick up the products and the tools that you're using for our job, and you're getting different tools for each one, that's where you're going to need a different form for each employer.
Okay, but I would still need one every year.
Yes,
A brand
it
new
is an
one
annual one
signed
every year.
year.
Yeah.
Great.
You're welcome.
All right. So to summarize, being an employee.
Being an employee is easy. See?
It's super
It's
easy,
easy.
except you need TD1.
TD1, your employer will ask you
Your
for.
employer will ask you. A T4 is what they'll issue you. They'll take deductions. You need to keep your information up to date, and contact information and direct deposit and etc. Address, SIN number, and what else could we talk about? They will take deductions and issue you a T4. Yes.
Yes.
That's
And
it.
then there's the T2200, which is if you have to buy paint or steel toes or whatnot. Great. So let's get into the super complicated bit. And by super complicated, I'm actually kind of scared about this one.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be. So let's say your name is Kevin, and hypothetically, and you have a sister who's a big foodie and works in that industry, and she set you up to do something called the Canadian Cheese Awards, which does exist and is amazing.
Right.
And so you met with this man who said, I need these things. And you said, okay, great. I can do it for this much money. And in the process, I hire some people on his behalf. I rent gear and get reimbursed for it, stuff like that. So this is a bit complicated. But basically, instead of getting paid by a timesheet and a TD1 and all that stuff, I'm writing a contract.
Yeah.
And then possibly sending an invoice. First question is, does a contract count as an invoice?
No.
No?
It could be all you have supporting an invoice. For example, if you rent an apartment, you don't have an invoice monthly. So the contract will show how much you're being paid. But generally, it's not.
Okay.
It may include a payment schedule.
It may, yes.
Which is, an
Which is
area,
good.
it's almost the equivalent of having an invoice. Yeah.
Now, one of the other things is CRA and you personally don't really care whether you have an invoice or just a contract. If you receive $3,000, whether it agrees to a payment schedule or a contract or nothing at all, you still owe tax on it.
Right. Okay. Excuse me. So what should be on a good invoice? Because I'm sure it's possible to make a terrible invoice.
All right. So this goes into a discussion that Kesta and I had about some of the ways that people invoice and how you're going about that. You can take Microsoft Word and Microsoft Excel and move them to the garbage can on your computer because they are fraught with problems and doing this particular type of thing. It is difficult for you to know when you create an invoice 2 weeks from now if it got paid. It's not the same function as accounting software. You also run into problems with addition on these, and you also run into problems in rendering them because in a lot of cases you're pressed for time and you're making errors on them. So we see these things frequently. In a paper invoice, if it's wrong, here's what happens. It gets put to the bottom of the pile and we don't get to it until the next day because we're going to have to contact people and revise the invoice. So some of the things that we were discussing are requirements for us is there's a piece of software that I'm going to recommend a little later that's going to do timekeeping and invoicing for it. But the things that Kesta and I were talking about that we need on an invoice are...
Okay, we need to know who you are and how to pay you. That sounds really obvious, but if you have a company name that's different from your name, we need to know that. Yeah. If you are incorporated and it's a business number that we're making the payment out to, we need to know that. We need to know how to reach you, phone, email, snail mail, and we need to know what we're paying you for. So saying 10 hours at $16 an hour, I need more information than that.
Not
right?
for services rendered, You have to make
so
it
I need
detailed.
to know 10 hours, $16 an hour, I was a light walker. Great, because that's going to help me get your invoice improved. I know which department head to go to. I know, and even better, if you can tell me what show you were on or what project you were on.
And the date.
And the date.
Yeah.
The more details, I would rather get an invoice full of information than 2 lines on a sheet of paper.
From a blue line
Because then
bucket.
it goes through approvals faster. I can look against my budget and say, yeah, I was expecting 10 hours of light walking, or it goes through department heads much faster. If you charge HST, if you're self-employed, I need your HST number. Most payment softwares will have a process that it will check that that's valid. So if it comes up as invalid, you're not going to get...
Can we pause there and work on HST numbers?
Yep.
Sure.
What the hell?
Harmonized sales tax is the outcome of goods and services tax, and we use it in Ontario because it combines the two levels of taxes. After 150 years of Confederation, we finally got it together, and we are putting the same sales tax in a single entity.
Sure.
Harmonized sales tax.
So when do you need one? An HST number.
If you make more than $30,000 in any
pregnancy
1 year, in any 12 months, you have to register for HST. If you're not sure, you can register early, and it's generally not going to be a problem. It's
Now, is
just a little
that
more
$30,000 period or $30,000 as a self-employed?
$30,000 as a self-employed person.
Okay.
Fair point. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm working 9 months as an employee and then 3 months as something else
Self-employed,
entirely,
just the
Okay.
self-employed income.
Thank goodness.
There you go.
Question.
What happens if you don't register for one and you make over
So
$30,000?
we were actually talking about this just before. You have two choices. You can go back to the people who paid you, say, I goofed, you owe me an extra 13%. Good luck.
That's
exactly.
a great conversation.
What much more likely is you'll go back and say, hey, I received 10 hours, $16 an hour, so I got $160, and CRA will say, great, included in that was your HST, cough it up.
Yep.
So your pay goes from $16 an hour to $14 an hour, whatever that number is. So you have to pay the HST either way. You're probably taking it out of pocket if you missed it and can't go back to your employers.
And keep in mind that if you are registered for HST, you're collecting money on the Queen's behalf. That's the legal sort of idea behind it.
Don't spend it.
Don't spend it. She gets really angry.
Can you make interest off it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure, yeah, but you still have to remit it. Yeah.
My recommendation at a high level, and you notice this on my website, if you're self-employed, take 30% of everything you receive, dump it in a savings account. That should, until you're making more than about 80 grand a year, cover off your taxes, personal taxes, and your HST. That's sort of the really ballpark. But yeah, absolutely. Put it in a savings account, earn interest on it.
Yep.
Put it in a TFSA if you want.
Yeah, you still should probably make installments too. If it gets really out of hand, you still, through the course of the year, should be making installments from that account.
Yeah.
So that it builds up at the end of the year. Yes.
Once you have an HST number, do you have to register yourself personally as your own business, or are those separate?
We had a conversation about this. If you register Popo the Happy Catfish as your business name, that's what you need to invoice consistently. You can't change how you invoice.
But once you have an HST number, do
You
you
could
have
put
to make
different
yourself
business
a
names
business,
underneath it.
Or can you just still say, this is my name,
You
paid with my
yeah,
HST number?
you can have a business that is Ian Edmonds, and here's my HST number. That is a business. There are 3 different legal structures in Canada. I'm not going to go into them, but they are a sole proprietorship, which is just me operating as a business, and that can just be called Ian Edmonds. That's a business. You can have a partnership, which is Ian and Sue. That's a partnership. That can be registered as a business. You can have Ian Edmonds Professional Corporation. That's a corporate entity. It's its own legal entity, way more complicated, and that's a business, and it's got its own business number.
So do you have to be a business?
You don't
even
have
when
to
you an
incorporate,
HST number?
but to get an HST number, that is registering a business.
They want to be able to determine specifically the taxpayer that they are going to go after, who's responsible for that. You can't escape these. So if you have a name for what you do as a light walker or a tech, and you've given it some sort of business name, tell the CRA what that business name is, and you could attach it to the HST number that you've already put in under your own name. We search in the GST registry to determine the accuracy of people's HST numbers. And we matched against the name they provided on the invoice. And not frequently, but enough times, as Beth and I were talking about earlier, we get duds.
And that registry, by the way, just on that, doesn't have a way to tell me what the business number is for what the name is for a certain business. So if the name for the business is not exactly on your invoice, so if you're under Jane John Smith and your invoice just says Jane Smith, and you provide the HST number, they'll just get an answer back saying that's not the right HST number. Now they have to come back to you and say, okay, well, what is it?
Yes.
I just had a question. Is an HST number, when you're registered with your business, they're the same thing as when you go to buy something in a store and they say, oh, do you have a business number? Like, so in the paint store, they'll have one price for a paintbrush and then a trade price for a paintbrush.
So your HST number is 15 digits long. It's 9 numbers, RT0001. The first 9 is your business number. Yeah. So if you want a business number, that's your business number. The rest of it is the HST part.
But it's combined.
The whole 15 digits is your HST account. Realistically, for most people here, that's the only account you're ever going to use.
Yeah.
But if you register, say you hired employees, actual employees, you have your own payroll account. You'd have the same business number, RP0001. So again, most people will only ever use the HST account, but the business number, the 9-digit number, is your business's number. And then the part after it just says this is an HST account.
Uses the same algorithms as your social insurance number, so anything that we input it into, it will check the value to make sure that it's a valid HST number as well. Yes.
If you did goof and you want to go back to one of your employers or multiple of your employers and ask for the extra HST.
Sorry, one of your engagers, not your employers. Right.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. Are they in any way required to give it to you?
It's a difficult conversation, specifically if you've done this and the role has somewhat diminished or it's not gone well. It's not really something that's their complete obligation to do. They might do it to be good to you.
The other problem you may run into, technically as long as it's agreed, yes, they're responsible. But if you have a relatively vague contract that talks about, you're going to get paid $16 an hour, they can make the legitimate argument, we thought that included HST, that's your problem. Yep. Especially because a lot of them will say, you're responsible for your own taxes. HST is a tax. And so, if you don't have that discussion up front, you can try. And I have some clients who have 1 or 2 very big clients of their own who are HST registered who don't care and said, sure, we'll cut you a check. But generally, it's hard. It's a hard discussion to open to.
Yeah, and particularly if there are entities that don't have a lot of cash on hand, and so HST is still a cash output for a lot of businesses.
Right.
One other thing while we're on HST, you are going to only remit some of what you collect. So any expenses you pay out of pocket, you're going to get back the HST that you pay on it. So that's the reason that those engagers won't really care if they have to pay you the HST, because they'll get it back when they file their own HST return. So it's important to keep your receipts, especially not just the credit card statement of a receipt, but the complete receipt that shows you paid HST, because when you file your taxes, you get that HST back.
Amazing. So we were on what's on a good contract or invoice.
Yes.
And we said contact information, description of what you did, date, obviously your name and address. Now, if you work under an alias, let's say I was K-Dub Hutson, because I am. I'm not really. Then it should just be my given name, the name that's cashing the check, presumably on that invoice, and not my nickname at I'm Awesome. Okay.
No.
Unless
that's how you registered your business. Right.
Yeah.
In which case that has to be there.
Okay, great. Popo with a happy catfish?
Popo with a happy catfish.
Amazing. Which is your business, is it not? Okay.
You do potentially run into an interesting problem if you get your checks out to Popo the Happy Catfish.
Yes.
That when you go to your bank, they may not want to clear it.
Imagine that.
Because then they'll say, but who is this? And why are we clearing these checks? This isn't Well, funny enough.
Yeah, so my last name's spelled with a T. It's Hutson with a T. But I've cashed a lot of checks for Kevin Hudson.
They may not care.
And a few more checks for Kevin Hutchinson, which is weird.
There you go.
But anyway, so I just get paid. It's fine. And the HST number we've gone over, and it sounds complicated, but hopefully it's not.
It's not.
The form of payment, too, should be something that you would have designated in the contract, too. You want to have something, and this is a different discussion, but in contract law, you want to make sure that those are dead accurate as
So
to
payable by check or whatever?
By a certain date.
When.
On a date,
yeah.
okay.
And so that there isn't any slippery maneuvering out of a contract.
Anyone
Is there
here?
any point in adding interest for late payments? I've seen that on.
You could, but that's always a negotiation with a vendor, right? They can just tell you to go jump in Lake Ontario.
Is there a specific date which they're required to pay you by?
Nope.
Is there?
No.
As a self-employed person, unlike an employee, that's just a contract matter. Employees can make claims. Self-employed people are business people doing businesses with other businesses. So in the same way, if you hire a painter and they do a lousy job painting your house, you say, I'm not paying you. They can take you to small claims court, but that's it.
Right. Okay.
Anyone here doing work outside of Ontario? If you're registered for HST, the HST rate you charge is the rate of the province you're working in, not Ontario. So if you're working in the States or if you're working in Quebec's got a different one, Manitoba, I don't remember. But if you're working, BC has a different one, they're 5. So if you're working in another province and you're registered for HST, you're charging their HST rate, not yours here.
Okay. Anything else on a good contract?
Certainly, you should give yourself the total amount, a breakdown for each installment, and the dates for when that's due. It might not be a bad idea to specify how you want to receive it, too. You can specify, and maybe your engager won't necessarily fulfill that.
Suitcase full of cash.
Well, a check or
$10
or
bills.
direct deposit, or in some way.
Unmarked and non-sequential bills.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
may not get what you asked for, but
Try.
Okay.
Loosely piled.
Yeah. Lovely.
smaller than 20.
Awesome.
Pay you in quarters.
So let's say the Cheese
Loose.
Awards went super well, and you are I went to Long and McQuaid. This hypothetical person, went to Long and McQuaid.
Hypothetically
went
I
to.
love how much research went into this hypothetical situation. It's great.
There's a very fleshed out character in my mind. So we went to Long and McQuaid, and he maybe rented some mics and some sound stuff, whatever that is, and paid Long and McQuaid by credit card, got reimbursed. Those all presumably need to be have receipts filed, because what does that mean on my taxes?
You got reimbursed for the receipts?
Yeah.
They don't mean anything on your taxes. You've already got the money back from your engager.
Okay.
Right? So those receipts should go to the engager. They're the property of the engager now.
But the engager paid me an extra fee. Does the government look at that and say, well, you actually made an extra $500 because the gear was $500?
Yeah. So if the two net out perfectly, so if you're taking your receipt for Long and McQuaid to your engager and saying, here I bought $150 worth of rentals, and they give you $150, you're good. Where it's different is if you're in the case of providing a podcast and you just happen to rent equipment or didn't, and someone says, we're just going to pay you $1,000 to come and do this. Right. If you have to rent your own gear, that's your problem. If you don't, that's fine.
Right.
And so in that case, you're not being reimbursed by anyone.
So, and this is where, if you're an HST number, you are your own business, a sole
Your own
proprietorship.
business, yeah.
So it's a revenue versus expenses equation?
Even if you don't have a business number or an HST number, you're still a sole proprietor and you still have to deal with all of this stuff. You're just small enough that you don't have to register for HST. They took saving grace on people who were small and said, you're under 30,000, don't bother with HST, do all the rest of it. But what you're looking at in that case is if you're being fully reimbursed, as Scratch mentioned, it's not really your expense. You didn't rent the mic equipment, the person who engaged you did, because they've basically taken the receipt and just given you back the $128.50. But if they say, we'll give you $1,000, and you say, well, actually, I'm going to have to rent some gear, all right, we'll give you another $500.
Yep.
Now your income's $1,500. If you can get that equipment from a friend who just shows up and you give them a couple of beers, then great. You still made $1,500 and the rent didn't cost you anything.
Clear on that, it's $1,500. You're
fair
getting
enough.
more money, and you're responsible for that. It's taxable income now.
Yeah.
Right?
What about a cancellation clause?
Sorry.
Yes.
What if your the actual example is Next Stage or Fringe, where you get a box office revenue, it's a profit share, and you have to pay people,
Yeah.
and they're not necessarily writing you invoices. You've written an agreement, you've signed an agreement, but you're going to cash that check and then pay them all.
I've got to excuse myself here on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they should be invoicing you as the first one. Because otherwise, when CRA says, where did this $300 go? And you go, I gave it to someone. For what? To pay what? And how do we make sure that they paid the right tax on it? You have nothing, and so they'll just take the expense off. So ideally, or if your agreement, this goes back to that sort of contract invoice. If your contract says you're going to do this work on this day and I'm going to pay you $300 for it, great, that's what I'm going to point to as my support. But you need some sort of support for any expense you're paying. If you're in that sort of box office share, you will collect your $500 for the evening and you'll pay someone $100. Your income is $500 and your expense is $100. You're never wrong to include both the income and the expense. If you do that with the reimbursement, that will put you in the same position. You'll say I made an extra $150 and I spent another $150 renting lighting equipment, mics, that sort of thing. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Cool. Cancellation clause. Is that the thing you put in a contract? The thing you need to? I mean, this is contract law and not particularly accountancy, but
that's a contract question. Again, you certainly can.
Yeah.
Depends on the part of this depends on the negotiating power of the two people. You can try, as Scratch said, you can put whatever you want in a contract, whether they're going to agree to it or not. You can send them an invoice saying, hey, you canceled on me last minute, here's an invoice for $300. Here's what'll happen. They can then say, we're not paying that. Your choice is now take them to small claims court or walk away from it.
Right.
The second problem is that in most entertainment industries, they're relatively small. Try taking your clients to small claims court, you're going to find it hard to work pretty fast.
Right.
And on the same hand, too, we're in a select group here of people within the same industry, too, and this is something that you're sharing amongst yourselves. These sorts of events allow you to exchange that information. If someone's a prick, it's not likely that you're going to keep that information to yourself.
Yeah,
and
indeed.
So that poisons the waters for everyone. So,
that would never happen. You can also, again, going back to the cancellation, another thing you can have is the ability to get paid in advance.
Right.
Again, someone may not agree to it, but I know that, for example, if I have a client who comes to me and says, well, I'm really strapped for cash and I had someone who came to me and said, I'm thinking of going bankrupt. Great, I'd like to get paid before I start on your returns. Just saying, you told me you're going to file bankruptcy soon. I'm not holding my breath for being paid afterwards.
Somewhere that a cancellation clause isn't unheard of is on a design contract. So if you're designing sets, costumes, lights, and you're set up for 3 installments, on signing, first day of rehearsal, opening night, which is a pretty standard schedule. Often in those design contracts, particularly if you're covered by ADC or any other design organization or entity, if you've done the first bulk of the work and the show gets canceled, if you've been paid, you've done the work. You should be paid for your work. And so there would be something in that type of clause if the show gets canceled at this point, if it gets canceled here.
Yeah.
You've got the support of an organization.
You've got the support of an organization.
behind you.
But there are a lot of, particularly the larger theater companies, that will use those contracts as the basis for their design agreements as more and more designers move towards that. So for those types of situations, you can look at the language there.
And when we're designing contracts, we're really looking at the points where we're getting something for the work that you're doing. So when you get a contract from an organization or you're creating one for that organization, it's really great to have those deadline points. So you're like, I'm here at this point and I should get paid this much because this is how much work I would have done by this time period. So that kind of lines up with the design.
Designs, finals.
Yeah.
Or if you're a writer, first draft, second draft, production draft.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm just going to try and summarize again because this is very confusing. So as a self-employed contract worker, go ahead, Beth.
Oh, no, I just was checking in. We're at about an hour, and I was just wondering, how's everyone feeling?
Good.
Panelists, you're good to keep going for a little bit?
Yeah, happy.
Awesome.
Some more water, please.
Yes, more water, please.
More water? Great, thanks.
Awesome, thank you. So typically, I think most of us will represent a sole proprietorship.
Yes.
And so if that's our sole source of income and we plan on making more than $30,000, we need to register for an HST number. Where do we do that precisely?
They'll sometimes contact you. And that's where they've.
That's bad.
It's
Not the
tricky.
preferred.
It's not the preferred.
You don't
method.
want that to happen.
Again, we drive back to this idea of making sure that you're making use of what's there as far as internet capability that the government's put in place. because it works after hours, because it works on your schedule, if as much as you can, there's different portals that you can use to access to get HST numbers, to access different levels of services. Service Ontario is one of them, and that is a one-window service that you can register any number of things. And similarly with the CRA and then Service Canada, there's different methods of accessing and obtaining those services. To get someone on a phone now is enormously difficult, and to do transact by paper is even more so. There's far fewer employees in the public service, and your ability to get a fast answer is diminished. And so this is why the electronic services are featured and pushed as much as they are.
So the Service Ontario website is
Service
an easy way to
Ontario
do it?
for certain things, yes.
Okay.
You can certainly register for an HST number directly through CRA. One thing that I do run into some clients will find is that you can register for what's called a master business license. Right. You are not required to do so. And I believe that costs a little bit of money. So you can operate as a sole proprietor with an HST number and it not cost you a penny to get the business set up.
Okay. So, and then as a sole proprietorship, you're responsible for paying taxes on your income, or is it income versus expenses?
Net income, so income
Net
after your
income.
expenses.
Okay. Good to know. And so because that's essentially, can we call it profit?
Yeah.
Okay. Profit. So essentially you're paying taxes on your profit.
Yeah.
So you need to keep very careful records of what you make and what you pay.
Yes.
Okay.
Biggest one.
Great.
A lot of, keep your receipts.
Keep your receipts. Now, what sorts of receipts? I'm sure we could do our discussion on this.
This is something that just drives us crazy. Receipts. Receipts are your Titanic level of goods that you have to maintain across years, and they are something that you need to keep secure and unfettered and unmarked and completely accessible and readable, yeah. Because one of the problems that we've had in the last 20 years is thermal paper degenerates almost from the second that comes out of the printer. Mm-hmm. And if it's exposed to light, or you write on it, or it has markers, or
let's say I keep a bunch of receipts in my wallet and I cycle
wallet,
everywhere.
Yeah, or it's on the dashboard.
Highlighter.
Yeah,
Right.
highlighter erases these things. So you really have to be careful about these things, secure them out of the light, don't write on them.
Or scan them.
Or scan them, yeah, which is something that is another piece of software we'll talk about as well too, which is a method that the CRA accepts now.
Like you said, you could scan them or photocopy them. Do they need that original receipt? Like if it's on thermal paper?
No.
Phase,
Now they've said you can. They'll accept the scan now. That's the rule, but you have to destroy the original.
Okay.
Digital copies are fine. Yeah.
Interesting.
Keep them all in one way. If you're going to scan stuff, don't scan some of it and not others. Keep everything in digital. And as far as what receipts to keep all of them unless they are blatantly personal.
Yeah.
Because the worst thing that'll happen in my situation is I'll have someone who sits down with me. It's easy to prove how much income you made. It's hard to prove how many business expenses you have. And if someone comes in and sits down and says, hey, I can prove I made $80,000 of income last year. Great. What expenses do you have? Well, I didn't keep a lot of receipts. Okay, then you're just going to pay tax on $80,000. Yeah. That's not your profit. It really isn't. But you're going to pay tax on it, and it's going to hurt.
Yes.
If scanning is acceptable, are you able to take pictures of receipts and then just file them in different folders that way?
Yeah, it's just whatever memory capability you have too. And the recommendation that I've had at a bookkeeping conference, and there is such a thing. Imagine how much fun that is.
Tax conference. Tax conferences are even better.
Bookkeeping is that the scanning capability is there, and you should park, like everything else, you should park these things in a secure service that you think is adequate and has enough capacity for you. So information banks exist for this purpose, and they'll keep your material there on hand and available to you across the years. So
keeping your records for 7 years is your responsibility, so make sure wherever you're keeping them, if it's on your phone, make sure they're backed up somewhere, because your phone is not going to last 7 years.
Yeah. So it's all, it's just going to be park it somewhere where even like the capacity that Google gives you is more than enough, right? Google Drive has heaps of it.
There's some really great, and some are free, bookkeeping software where you can scan your receipt right to your bookkeeping entry, so that you can say, here's my restaurant expense, that I went out and, I had dinner with so-and-so, we negotiated the following contracts, and it's right there. You've got your entry into your
Whatever software
you're using, but some of them are really easy, and some of them are right from your phone. Like you right there in the restaurant before you're done, or you're at Staples and you've just bought, ink and paper and whatever else. Boom, picture of the receipt,
And
in
that's
it goes.
the time to remember too what the expense was too, because I guarantee in a month from now you're not going to know what you were drinking and who you were drinking it with,
which job it was for,
and which job it was for. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So you need to keep all these records, and so receipts of things you can write off. I'm thinking obviously tools you can write off, supplies, things like that, and things I'm thinking you probably can't write off, and there might be exceptions, are things like rent. Things like food.
Rent's okay.
Rent's okay. Yep.
Rent's okay.
Rent you
Food,
can.
Rent's okay. Food's okay. And some
The whole amount of rent?
reasonable.
So-
and these are things where you'd go to the inn and you'd get a value to use.
If you're self-employed,
Yeah.
you've reached the stage where I'm suggesting talk to someone about it. The problem is that I sit down and I have a 40-minute sort of tailored discussion with people about these are the expenses that are okay for your industry, these are the ones that are not. For example, I work with a lot of people in fashion and entertainment. I wear a nice jacket when I go to a meeting, when I go to a panel, but I can't call this a business expense. CRI just says you have to be nicely dressed because you're a business person. But then you run into someone who's in specialized industries. Steel toes, those are business expenses because of the work you're doing. Then you run into this gray area of what happens if you're asked to go to a call or a casting and someone says, you should be wearing X, a blue polo shirt, because that's what we want for this role. And you go buy a blue polo shirt. Is that a business expense? That's where you start running into the answer to that. All of a sudden becomes maybe.
So other than an accountant who can probably research this, is there a place you can go to pick hard and fast rules, or are those just generally going to be gray?
They're gray.
Right.
Some of them are blatant. Business cards, business expense.
Right.
Website for your services.
Website development costs, business cards, or business expense. Some of them blatantly not. What was this? This was me, renting a cottage with friends. Even that's a bad example. I can find ways to make it a business expense too.
Okay, but let's say something like a cell phone.
Make him your friend, I think.
Sorry. Yeah.
Am I correct in wondering if you get to the point where you are your own business and you are expensing X, Y, and Z, maybe is that the point where you go to Ian? Is that the point where you need an accountant?
And can we write off your fee?
Yes, absolutely.
It's a business expense.
The general litmus test for a business expense is to generate or maintain business income. The problem is that concept is broad, the industries are broad, and as you said, that's where you've moved from, my taxes are simple because I can't add anything to them. I can't tell you, you have a T4, great, you should include that in your taxes, otherwise you forgot it. But then you run into, I'm a self-employed person, and now all of a sudden your taxes have become complicated, and there are areas where either you can mess it up and end up owing way more than you should, or you'll end up in situations where you just go, I didn't realize I could claim this stuff. I went to a cottage with friends. I can make that a business expense.
Oh, we got lots of questions on this.
Well,
Okay.
let me just jump in here. One thing is T4As, just before we touch on this.
There's so much fun.
Oh, God.
You know what? Never mind. Let's go to questions first.
Can I give a quick answer on T4As?
Well, because I used to get T4As all the time, and now I
Here's the problem. Yeah. So the official administrative policy on T4As from CRA is they are optional.
Yeah.
It used Originally, T4As were for things like commission or scholarships. They were really crystal clear on what they were for. Then a couple years ago, they had a brilliant idea drawing from the US saying, we're going to add a box called fees for services.
Yes. Fees.
And what it said was, if you pay someone more than $500, you have to give them a T4A. Now they ran into a problem. I bill a lot of my clients more than $500. So then people started saying, well, am I supposed to give my accountant a T4A because I paid him more than $500 for services? And some auditors started fining people for not. And some auditors said, well, of course, that's silly.
Yep.
And so CRA said, whoa, we've stepped into a big can of worms we haven't figured out how to resolve. And so their official administrative policy on T4As is they are optional in fees for services. So you may well do 5 jobs during the year and get 3 T4As, and all 5 of them have done the right thing. And I apologize, but that's the answer.
And to make it even easier for you,
That's the clearest answer we'll ever get.
They're optional.
Amazing.
The practices, the clients that I have, I refuse to because of this whole dilemma that's occurred with them. It's garbage. And so if you get a contract and you know the value of the contract, you're responsible for making sure that value goes into your tax return. Okay? That's the basis of it. Don't anticipate from a lot of engagers that you're going to get a T4A. Keep your contract. Keep your payment records. Sorry.
I was gonna say, this year specifically, I found I've gotten more T4As from companies than I expected to, which was nice. Like, even if I'd made more than $500 with them previously, they decided to take up the option. And I find it better from my perspective, because even though I have my own records, it makes it easier just to plug in the numbers, right?
Yeah, but it's not something you should rely on, as what Ian said. It's also, it's something that I'm trying to save the client money. Because if I'm dicking around with these useless pieces of paper, it's costing the client money. It's
costs them to prepare them.
A huge preparation cost. In a lot of cases, you can't track it. People get confused with them. People think you have to issue them for corporations. Christ, at Tarragon, we got one, a T4A. We got one issued to us from Harbourfront. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just
for
a
fun.
blur. Yeah, just for fun.
Wow.
So there's problems with it. You should, in the case where you're doing self-employment, you must have some background and some record of what it is that you're getting paid in the course of a year. Don't expect that you'll get a form for it.
Your invoices or your contracts.
Your invoices are one thing. A contract's probably a bit more solid, and then you could check off the payments that you've received as well.
There were some other questions.
Other questions?
Some over there,
a few
but
minutes ago.
now I'm blinded.
I have my question.
Yes.
Are we, if you're making less than 30,000 independently, are you still claiming on all your expenses? Are you still filing all that?
Yes. So you're still a business. You've met what they call a small supplier test. It's one of the few places CRA decided we're going to be nice to businesses. And what they basically said was it's designed for part-time jobs. It's designed for hobbies. So, for example, if you have a hobby business, or if you have, 9 of your 10 people you work for consider you an employee and 1 consider you self-employed, they've said the administrative overhead of registering for CRA is complicated and messy, and at the end of the day, you're not going to send us very much money. How about you just don't bother? And so they've said, you meet this small supplier test. They're saying you don't have to deal with this. But you're still a business. You still have income that you have to declare as self-employed business income. You still have expenses you can claim against it to reduce your profit and pay less tax. But you don't have to register for HST.
Good question there.
As someone who runs a hobby business, I don't. The podcast doesn't generate a lot of money. Like it doesn't. It just doesn't. It's a very small
I'm
amount.
sorry,
but I
we do
still
what we
have-
can.
It's not necessarily
Throw
meant
more
to
into the
support.
Please tip the
That's
bonus.
right. It's not necessarily supposed to support, but I do have expenses that accrue, and so I actually take a loss on it.
Right.
How suspicious is it to year after year take a loss?
You
on
have to
business?
show a profit, at some point. Yeah.
So 3 and then a couple years gap, and then or
3 years is where CRA will, because what will happen is you'll have other sources of income. You'll have your salaried job from doing whatever you do, and then this hobby business. They're fine with a hobby business that doesn't make very much money. If at the end you say my podcast make $300 a year, they go, great, pay the tax on that. If your hobby business loses $500 a year, and it does that for more than 3 years, then they come along and say, so what are you planning to do to make this profitable?
Profitable, yeah.
Because you're lowering the tax you pay on your actual job by declaring this lost business. And so they won't let you do it more than 3 years.
He's a paramedic, by the way. He saves lives. Yeah.
Stop saving lives.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please.
I was gonna ask, what types of things do we have to pay the government that are not taxes that expenses don't help to reduce as a self-employed person? My dad told me I need to keep 10% of everything I make self-employed because that's for CPP. So no matter how many pairs of steel toes I buy, I can't reduce that cost at all. It's a
Not
fixed.
quite. So, CPP is the first tax that's going to kick in.
Right.
As a self-employed person, if you make a total profit at the end of the year of $8,000, the only thing you're going to pay is CPP.
Yep.
You get the privilege of paying into the Canada Pension Plan. Normally, half of that's paid by your employer and half of it's paid by you. As a self-employed person, you're both. So that's where you get the 10%. It's 10% of everything between $4,500 and about $55,000. So if you make $8,000, you would say, oh, I don't owe any tax. No, you owe 10% of that difference between $8,000 and $4,500. The other problem, if you've come out of school and you've got tuition credits carrying forward, they'll get rid of your federal tax, they'll get rid of your provincial tax, they won't do anything for CPP. CPP caps out around $5,000 a year for self-employed people. And so, yeah, at a minimum, 10% of profit. Like I said, my general recommendation is 30% of gross of the total cash you're taking in will cover off all your taxes up to about $80,000, whether you're registered for HST or not. You'll probably end up with too much set aside, but no one's ever complained to me about having too much money set aside.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Cool.
I have an employer that I'm on payroll, but they also contract me for other work in which I am paid, and they don't tax me on it, but they tax me on it. Is that legal?
It's a convenient fiction, okay? And we have to be blunt in a lot of these cases. There's a manipulation that's going on in a lot of circumstances, and if it's too fluid in these circumstances, they're trying to escape legitimate expenses that they have to pay. And unless there's some pressing reason why they can move you out of the employment agreement arbitrarily, is what it sounds like, I can't see how this can hold.
Unless, so there's certain situations like actors under a Canadian Actors Equity contract,
which is different,
who
yes.
are self-employed, and they cannot be an employee of the theatre. So there are some,
But not stage managers.
but not stage managers. If you're
Yep.
exactly,
Yep. Right.
exactly, because the government doesn't like actors to be employees.
Very strange.
Real
How dare you
short
be employees?
answer, but it's.
On that note, when, as a tradesperson, should we need insurance?
There is, you were talking about insurance, Worker Safety Insurance Board insurance?
I'm, as you know, in a grey area where I can sometimes be an employee and sometimes I'm sending out my services as the contractor. But as I am very confused by this, it seems to be based on whether I'm climbing a ladder.
Okay. WSIB is a provincial entity, and it's there as the Worker Safety Insurance Board, and its role is to act as the sort of quasi-industry government body that regulates who gets compensated in the event of an injury in the workplace. It is somewhat poorly run, and it is not able to detect the enormous pool of people that are out there in the workforce. And so you'll get cases where companies have never been registered with WSIB for their entire period of operation. You'll get individuals who have your dilemma, whether they should register for WSIB and pay premiums or not. So there's that form of insurance, which is a premium that is based upon what work you do. And there's the other form of insurance, which is just like running a business and having liability insurance. So there's a couple of different things to consider.
If you make a mistake and cost the show, they could sue you for lots of money.
Yep.
And you could say, well, I just spilt a can of black paint, I'm sorry. And they say you owe us 50 grand.
Yep.
Because we couldn't do the show.
Yep.
And if you had business insurance, you might be in a better situation.
Yep. You might be in better shape. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's
Not
all.
if you're an employee in that moment, right? If you're an employee of the company, then that's.
But you made a mistake and they can't.
Yeah, you're covered, and at some points they do have a WSIB program in place at an employer. Don't expect that all of them do. I've been in this for 40 years, and it's so disorganized there, they cannot find employers. They cannot determine where you are.
Yeah, they also, depending on the size of your organization, depends on whether or not you need to be a part of WSIB.
Yep.
So smaller organizations may choose to get insurance in other forms as opposed to going the WSIB route.
And they might go that route, but you don't know if they've actually done that.
Yeah.
So, as an individual contractor, is there a way to register for WSIB,
Yes.
pay premiums, and be covered?
Yeah, they'd be more than happy to take your money and do nothing with it.
And is that, again, a Service Ontario
No,
conversation?
WSIB is a direct.
Okay, so
down
direct
there
to
on Front Street,
WSIB.
That's also something that you can, as a business, insure against directly. You can get other kinds of insurance, so your own disability insurance. So if you fall off a ladder, you can get your own private insurance, which will cover you against that kind of thing. And that would have nothing to do with the business, but that's just another way of mitigating that risk.
Right.
Can you claim insurance on your taxes?
Yes, liability insurance is an expense, right? Yeah.
Yeah. If it's covering your medical expenses, then sort of, but it's not a business expense, no.
Right.
As an independent contractor, how beneficial is it to register for insurance compared to the expenses of it?
With WSIB?
Yes.
Well, like all insurance, it's just a contract, and there's no anticipation that it's ever going to pay out. And then the Toronto Star just ran an article about a gentleman who's been fighting the WSIB for years to try to get his claim settled. It is there to represent the interests of employers, and it has all of those barriers against claims in place.
And if I can say, Janet Sellery is someone who works in the theater industry, and she's really focused on health and safety. She's someone who I go to when I'm working for a company, and I say, should we be WSAB compliant or not? In a lot of cases, she said no, because of the size of the organization. And then Act One Insurance is an insurance company that is specialized for theater industry. So Steve Beattie, who's there, is amazing. So I would suggest looking in various places and finding out information about different companies, because WSIB has a few things going for it that could be really...
Yeah.
You don't get theater.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
They're going to try to make you a carpenter and exclusively a carpenter, or you're a rigger, or you're like...
And your rate is
And your
something
rate will
crazy.
be astronomical.
Yeah.
Call Steve.
Just quickly on Janet Sellery is amazing. I've
Yes.
spoken with her a bunch of times. She's super meticulous, and we can totally connect you to her. She's awesome. Yeah.
So, run a small business, have a WSIB account with province. Currently do not have private insurance. Somebody gets hurt on a site, my labor, not my client, so I'm there for another company.
Yes.
Would I rather have the WSIB in this mess,
Yes.
or would I rather have the private insurance?
Yeah.
I'd rather have the WSIB.
Yeah, and sometimes your customer will occasionally, if they're on top of it, will ask for your WSIB
They have to.
registration
The radio
information.
said last year they have to.
They have to, but a lot of them aren't even aware of it. There's an online way of doing it. You can drive around anywhere in Toronto, and you can look at idiots up on roofs who don't have helmets, don't have safety boots. This is the role that the WSIB is supposed to undertake, is prevention of those sorts of circumstances. And so when you're on site, it's important that you're covered, and it's equally important for whoever's engaging you to know that, and to know that you're covered.
Follow-up. If an audience member of the public is hurt by my crew member, is that my liability in that moment?
That would be
Like,
under
does that fall under my insurance claim?
Yep.
Or does that fall under the insurance claim of the company
that's yours.
That's mine because I'm the one appointed contractor?
Yeah. You're the contractor or rector at that point.
I think insurance is a pretty big topic, but quickly, I'm fairly certain, and correct me if I'm wrong, that we are all legally required to have WSIB. We're all required to be registered, are we not? Because that is what the CBC the CBC told me that last year, that self-employed people that we are also required to have WSIB numbers. If we're employees, then the employer carries that liability and takes care of it. And if we are self-employed, we are supposed to have our own WSIB numbers, as far as I know.
That would be the best practice,
Yeah.
yes. Is that actually happening
Yeah.
everywhere?
No. No, I mean, I can walk onto a condo down the street on Bathurst and work for cash and just never be told about.
And
That's
in
a thing that happens.
The high-risk world of bookkeeping, I don't bother with it. There's an anticipation that you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, that you're supposed to be
Box
covered.
fell on you.
Right.
So.
Bankers' boxes get heavy.
They do. Can I put your back out?
So I'm thoroughly confused, and I'm sure we're running along. But hopefully we've all learned something. I think we need to talk about software briefly.
Yes.
But before we let this over, and then turn it over to questions, if you're still willing to answer questions, I'd just like to say that as a carpenter, I expect people who need carpentry to engage a specialist carpenter to get the best carpentry they need.
Yeah.
Generally, it's actually a little more complicated to skin a flat than you would think, and so you hire a carpenter. As a result of that attitude, if I need somebody to do my taxes, I might not try and do it myself, and I may engage an accountant. And I think that's probably best practice for me.
Well, it segues into something that is going to change next year. Tax preparers are going to have to be registered starting in the next fiscal year. And
I am so happy.
It's because there's a lot of people who advertise on hydro poles and they're not competent and they prepare returns and the CRA is running into enormous amounts of errors. And it's usually the same errors. So in the next year, not this year, the next year, all tax preparers will have to register, and you would ask these people who were preparing your taxes, if you choose that route, to make sure that they provide that to you. If they don't know what you're talking about, leave.
Amazing.
The example I give for people when I'm sitting down and talking with them is every single person in this room can hang a shingle tomorrow saying tax preparer.
Yep.
There's nothing that prevents you from doing so. You are operating legally to do so and charge people for it.
Yep.
Make sure that the people you're dealing with, whoever that may be, I am serious about that, knows what they're doing and knows what they're talking about.
Great. So that was...
One quick thing on self-employed. We talked earlier about if you're employed, you have to file by April 30th. If you have self-employed income, you in theory can file your return as late as June 15th and be all good. But if you owe them money, you still have to pay them by April 30th.
Okay.
Ian makes a good point because it's on his website too, and he says this again on his website. He says, "But don't."
Yeah.
Don't. You've got the grace period.
Yeah.
Why?
But don't. Right.
If you haven't already, Ian, could you shout out your website?
IanEdmonds.ca. It's also on my card if you want one.
Fantastic.
Amazing. Just for our listeners at home.
So thanks very much. That was our 20-minute introduction on how to do taxes.
Just quick brief intro on taxes.
Just a quick brief intro. Yeah. Please do come up and ask questions. I know I'm well confused, but I think I've learned a bit. Please.
We're at an hour and a half. Everyone's still feeling good?
Yeah. We can go whenever you want. Also, it is Pie Day. There's pie over there.
The pie is delicious.
We may be running out of podcast time. But if you're willing to ask more questions or answer more questions, please, please fire away.
Run through the software first.
Yeah. Okay.
Software.
All right. The software that is in place in Toronto is extraordinary. What we have is developers here in the city who are making some of the most highly adequate, professional accounting software in North America and potentially the world. And one of the ones that we have that I've used extensively is FreshBooks. Our office is up there in DuPont. FreshBooks is so specific to your cohort that I would recommend it that each of you use as a tool to do your timekeeping and your invoicing. There is a charge that they have. It's tiered. You can go to the site and you can determine what is suitable for you. But there is a free package with a fair amount of restrictions. It's only good for a one-way relationship with it. FreshBooks is one of the examples. One of the other ones that Kesta is going to tell you about is what she uses.
It's called Wave. You do need to be not afraid of bookkeeping software to use it, but it is free. And there are a lot of tools completely free. Right from the app, you can scan your receipts. You can send an invoice right from your time card on your phone. You can get weekly reminders of outstanding invoices, and you don't have to do anything. It's the first setup. If you aren't comfortable with bookkeeping software, I'd suggest getting help getting this set up for the first time because you need a chart of accounts. So you need to put in your revenues, you need to put in your expenses. And I find best practices when you do your expense account, if you're not going to be a particularly complicated organization, is go to your CRA page and say your first line is advertising. That's something you can write off. So that's your first entry in your expense account. The next one is interest charges, banks, meals, entertainment. Follow it exactly. So then at the end of the year, you're just transferring your information. But as far as usability goes, I'm not a technologically savvy person. And I found it very user-friendly.
Wave has its office over in Carlaw, and it's got an immense amount of support from both the Ontario government's got some money in it as well.
Yeah.
But it's...
And they answer their phone if you're
They
stuck.
answer the phone, yeah. And its basis is it's advertised supported, but it's also got modules that add on and that you can pay for as well.
I've yet to pay for any of it, just for the record. And I mean, I was a self-employed contractor before I took the job at Tarragon, and I had several different streams, so I was managing different types of services that were coming in. I also do my husband's self-employed business through that, and I do it all through the same app, and it's really
And I've moved
straightforward.
my bookkeeping invoicing to Wave this year from a dead system that I was using for a long time. The other one I'll mention too, which is a paid system here in Toronto as well, is called hubdoc.com. HubDoc is an aggregator. And by that I mean it will pull in a whole array of information that you need as far as invoices, statements, bills, receipts into a central point. You know how a utility company will want you to go to their site and retrieve your bill, and there's happy people like getting their bills out of mailboxes. It's idiotic. This thing will take all of your passcodes and all of your passwords and put them to a central point and retrieve them automatically for you so that they're presented in one place that you go to. All your credit cards, your Hydro, your Enbridge are all resident in one site. Unfortunately, it charges in US dollars for that. So it's a little high priced right now.
Monthly?
Yeah, monthly. $20 US monthly for HubDoc.
One of the other things that I will suggest, I don't generally recommend specific software packages, but what I would point out, there are some fantastic Canadian ones. Be careful when you're looking for, especially bookkeeping software, that you're looking for something that's Canadian. As a CPA in the States as well, Canadian and US taxes are very different.
They don't understand it.
If you're looking at a US software package, it's going to be looking at the wrong things. It's going to be dealing with the wrong expense categories. The taxes, HST is dealt with differently. All of those sort of things will be wrong. So make sure you're working with Canadian software if you're using some sort of bookkeeping software.
The Australian stuff actually will work because they have a similar thing, and New Zealand as well. But yeah, as much as you can give the money and keep the value in Canada, they're already developing for this market. And it's small, but it would be specific to what you need to do.
Awesome.
Before I ask my question, or before anybody asks a question, I think we'll probably post those things on the Bellows Facebook page.
Yeah, we should probably totally do that.
Because I'm going to want to remember those. So we'll get those and we'll post them on the Facebook page.
Oh my God, Michael Kruse already tweeted it, guys.
On it.
Nice.
Yeah.
We should get commission from that.
So I do have a question.
Please shoot.
Everybody else does. First question. I know you get tax credits for stuff like tuition and books and stuff like that, which is a little overdue for me as somebody who's never filed their taxes and will be very soon.
There you go.
Do those expire? Do any of these credits expire?
So the short answer is no, but depending on how far back you're trying to go, CRA may choose to refuse to accept a tax return that is more than 10 years old. So if you went to school 12 years ago and didn't file your taxes and now try to file them, they are within their rights to say we refuse to accept this return and therefore the tax credits that go along with it. So if you're filing properly and filing on time, your tuition credits will never expire. But if you just don't file for 15 years and then say, oh, I was in school 12 years ago, too bad.
And I have another question. This is it doesn't apply to me right now. I just want everyone to know that. But there's this big scary word that I kind of want to get information on and talk about, and that's the idea of being audited.
Yes.
What is it to be audited? Why do you get audited? And what do you do if you get audited?
You grab a beer, you call your mother and cry. It's not a pleasant experience. I was audited because a member of my family immediate family was being audited because they had an employer that was doing some shady things. So therefore, the trickle down, and I don't think that I got the full experience that some people who are doing the shady things themselves. it's like dealing with the police. Be polite, answer their questions to the best of your ability, you know,
And don't get shot.
and cooperate, and don't get shot. But no, it's really not a pleasant. And I mean, I'm up here on a panel talking about this kind of thing, and I don't want to do it again. And I have my records are organized.
Yeah.
There are triggers that usually would make an audit fall into your world.
Yeah.
And Ian probably has more than enough experience with that too.
So many stories.
There is, yeah.
So there are definitely things that will trigger audits. One of the things to keep in mind is that CRA gets tax returns from everyone across the country. So, for example, as an accountant, when I submit my own taxes, if my meals and entertainment are way higher than most accountants, CRA is going to come knocking saying, hey, we noticed that your meals and entertainment is really high. Could you explain what you're spending it on and provide receipts?
Even within a district, it's that much rich information that is available to them, so that if it's disproportionate with other accountants
in Toronto.
They're going to question that.
I've seen people who've been audited for you make less than other people in your profession in cities of your size.
What's going on?
You know, other people in your profession, lawyers, for example. Other lawyers in small towns make a lot more than you do. What's up? So some of their audits are very detailed. Some of them are very high level.
I think I had a high level one because they were looking for hidden income.
Yeah.
Like my sister was suddenly paying my bills.
Yeah. The kinds of audit you can get vary enormously depending on why they picked you. They do randomly pick some people every year. Those ones are fairly high level. They're just going, we just want to make sure that you're kind of supporting your stuff. Some of them are very detailed if they think you're hiding something. One thing to keep in mind is that their normal period for reassessing your return, so coming back and asking questions, is 3 years after it's been assessed. So if hypothetically someone hadn't filed for 10 years and you all of a sudden batch file all of them right now, they will assess all of them, and they have until 2019 to ask questions on your return from 10 years ago. If you file on time, once that 3-year window is gone, unless they can prove actual fraud, they can't go back and do anything about it. If you just say, I lost those receipts, there's not a lot they can do.
That's right, Kevin. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically, if you're late filing.
So admitting to a room full of people that you haven't filed in 7 years is not enough to get
Oh, Kevin didn't do that though. He had a hypothetical situation.
Yeah, there's a hypothetical man named Kevin.
So you only have to provide receipts if you get reassessed or audited?
If CRA asks for them, normally when you file the return, you just say, my meals and entertainment were $650. Canada operates on what's called a self-reporting system. You tell them what your numbers are, and unless they ask for more questions, they just go with it and say, all right, you told us this was your number, so we're good. They'll fix math errors on your mistake. If you hand do your return and it's wrong, they'll fix it for you. But if you've got receipts, you have to keep them for 7 years, but unless they ask, you don't have to do anything with them. Main thing is be well organized, be detailed, and know where you got the numbers from.
This is a part of just your whole business apparatus, and I think you should look at these sorts of sessions as part of your fiscal fitness, and this is something you're going to have to maintain for the rest of your lives.
Yeah.
It's not we're asking you to stop smoking dope or anything like that, but it's so that you maintain some sort of regimen with what you do with your business, with your employment, with your tax filing. And you'll recall this years from now, oh yes, this is why I'm undertaking all these things.
And keep in mind, if you're filing as self-employed or as a sole proprietor, you are a business in CRA's eyes.
Yeah.
The answer, I didn't think to keep those receipts, I didn't care, I couldn't be bothered, I've thrown them out, doesn't fly. They will just take those things off your return and say, great, if you can't support them, we're not letting you claim them. They don't care what your business is.
But once you're caught up,
you're
the next year is so much easier.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that year.
We were chatting, I was saying that my in-laws still do things the old-fashioned way with paper and the tables, and they have their stacks of receipts and all their stacks of, and then now that they have the new feature where it carries, so you fill out your questionnaire, you give your name, your date of birth, your address, and then next year, unless you move or anything, it carries forward that information. And it'll carry forward your tax credits, and you work them down. But now they have an autofill feature that is slowly being rolled out.
So nice.
That is available on TurboTax, but tomorrow on
UFile.
You go to your My Account, and You open it, and from your tax file software, you say autofill, and any T4 that's been submitted for you, any RRSP slips, T4As, it just goes
Populates
T3s and T5s.
Ta-da!
Yeah.
So it even just takes out that data entry. I mean, you still want to check it to make sure everything did, in fact, go over, but it took less than 20 minutes to do my sister's return this year.
It also means that if you didn't get a copy of your T4A or your T4, but your employer sent a copy to CRA, you will get it included in your taxes because CRA's first answer will be, we fixed a mistake in your return and added it in, please send us more money. Because they have a copy of it.
Just about my account, as far as I remember, it's not like instant to get that. They have to like send you a letter with your password.
Yes.
I got a,
April 29th.
I've got a flow chart to show people that's from their website that shows how to obtain a My Account. It would be the one thing that I can strongly suggest you take away is to go and open one of these in the next week and a half if you don't have one currently.
CRA, just to address some of the scams that people came up with last year, CRA is communicating with people by email now. They have been very clear to say that the only thing they are doing by email is sending people an email saying there's something in your My Account, go look at it. They won't email you a notice of assessment. They won't email you a payment demand. They won't email you anything like that. And they don't take payment through email. It's just been, there's an email, there's a notice in your My Account. You should go check it out.
Log in. Everyone wants to get to the pie.
Is there pie left?
There shouldn't be pie left if you baked the pie.
Great. Do we want to get to the pie? Are we all sufficiently scared? Is that what this is? Yeah? All right. Thank you very much. I hope you're feeling more confident than I
am. And that was our special presentation of The Bellows, Mo Money, Mo Problems. The music for this podcast is by Vern Good, with voiceover by Gabriel Cropley. Please go to iTunes and give us a review. It'll help get the word out about this podcast and share the history of theatre design in Canada. And you can follow us on Twitter at TheTitleBlockCA and on Facebook.com/TheTitleBlock Podcast. You can send comments and requests by email to TheTitleBlock@gmail.com. Don't forget that if you like the show, support us on Patreon.com. And I'm Michael Kruse, and I'll see you next time on The Title Block.